Welcome to Now with Stacy Washington. So excited to be welcoming into the show today. Will Hild, Executive Director of Consumers Research, is going to talk to us about climate cartel, and they're suffering a huge major blow to their ESG agenda. Also joining me to talk about the latest book in his repertoire is John Holzman. He wrote The Last Best Hope, A History of American Realism. And so right now we want to jump into the presidency. Last week's social media was completely blown over and trended by Fani Willis and her absolutely stunning appearance during her testimony in court over her extramarital affair, or I should say, affair with a married man, and how that impacted the way she behaved in bringing charges against the defendants in the Georgia election interference case. So, one of the most important parts about the entire thing was how she dominated the courtroom and really put herself into kind of the judge's position, as well as the one who was testifying, as well as the one who was making the question. So as she was kind of trending everywhere, there were a lot of media outlets who had response to what she said. So you have a Democrat on CNN, he's a legal analyst, and he talked about how Fani Willis's testimony was not credible. He called it a train wreck. He's Michael Moore, former U.S. attorney, and he was on to provide analysis and opinion there. Take a look.
I think there were things they could have pushed a lot harder on and maybe a little delved into specifics a little bit more, especially when we start talking about things as nebulous as cash payments, and there's no way to track it, and how much cash was paid. What did you really just pay for the $150 to negotiate the taxi, or was there? How would you do with the $4,000 you took? I think they could have pushed that. I also thought that, it just was not credible. It reminded me of watching a criminal defendant take the stand. They don't have to do that. And you see it, and you can tell that the defendant thinks that they're smarter than every lawyer in the room. And it just becomes a train wreck. And so that's sort of how I felt this it just went off the track.
When you say it wasn't credible, are you referring to the testimony or are you referring to the line of questioning?
To the testimony. I thought that there was things that, he was going to her house and visiting her alone some number of times, years before she claims, or a year before they claim they were dating, right? That strikes me as a little bit odd. I mean, and not a big deal, but was she entertaining other members of the prosecution team? No, it was just him. Nobody was there to see it. They want to talk about the credibility of the lady at the DA's office who testified, the witness who that predates the relationship.
So the relationship was at issue. Her testimony was bombastic, and she veered off into other areas to try to draw away from the real issue here. And I've seen a lot of people in the comments, and a lot of even bloggers who've written about this, and video bloggers who've made their shows around what happened last week. They've all focused on the fact that Donald Trump had extramarital affairs. And so she had an extramarital affair. And if you didn't mind Donald Trump having them back in the 80s and 90s and maybe beyond, then why should you mind this? Well, I don't think that the issue here is that she had an extramarital affair and people are trying to make a moral judgment about that. What they're saying is she hired her boyfriend to work for her at the expense of the Georgia taxpayers. So there is a conflict of interest there. There's also a question about whether or not he was really the best choice. And it draws away from the focus that should be placed on the case that she brought. So that will be at issue, the fact that she brought the case for political reasons, but you can't really get away from the fact that the affair points to corruption and misuse of funds. So I think that's being lost in the conversation, which is exactly what Fani Willis intended when she made her testimony about being insulted for having her motives questioned. She said she didn't know what a continent was. She wasn't sure where Belize was. She first said that he wasn't there with her, and then she said he was, and she reimbursed him. And she keeps thousands of dollars in cash at her home because she's a single woman, and who doesn't do that? All of these things draw viewers away and give the entire affair a Real Housewives of Fani Willis type of a feel to it. It doesn't feel like you're watching a seasoned attorney who is now a prosecutor who's bringing one of the most consequential cases of this election cycle. It doesn't feel like she's bringing a case in the jurisdiction of Georgia the state of Georgia on behalf of Georgians and writ large the American people, it feels like she's got some little podunk case that's being made a mountain out of a molehill for reasons that are purely surrounding her personal issue, her appearance, let's say, or the fact that she's a Black woman, because I've seen that alleged as well. She has been very effective at taking the focus off of what she did that was incorrect, her incorrect behaviors, the motives behind them, and placing all of the blame and the attention on the attendant circumstances. The fact that she's a woman, the fact that she's, in Georgia, I mean, anything to direct your attention away from the core issue here. So, in addition to that little bit, Michael Moore continued on. He was the U.S. attorney in the Middle District of Georgia, and went on to talk about her indignation and the possibility that it wasn't quite as sincere as it appeared to be. Watch this.
She had as much of an axe to grind as they do, and probably they have more at risk than she does. So when the judge weighs out credibility, who may have a reason to lie, or who has a reason to tell the truth, and which one seems to be more believable. I have a hard time just thinking about a DA paying everything in cash. Nothing wrong with cash, but it's convenient right now. The trial in New York, I mean, it's a check, right? We're looking at,
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't cash shuttled around on the table. This is just cash money somebody's claiming. And then the visits there, it's sort of the indignation. I just didn't think it did her much good. Her indignation would have seemed a lot more sincere had she come out about 2 months ago. But remember, even as she's there saying, wanting to get to the truth, and she's shaking the documents and the court filings around in front of everybody, her office is fighting everything. They're fighting every witness subpoena. They don't want the records to come in. She's refusing to let bank records and other things come in. They're hiding behind the privilege from his divorce lawyer, who they're claiming was a friend, but maybe a divorce lawyer, so we really shouldn't have to say anything. And we've still got this string of texts that Mr. Bradley had with one of the defense lawyers, Ms. Merchant. Let's see what those texts say, because apparently, and she told the court, I've got information where he says this happened before. So if that's another witness, let's see it. Let's let Mr. Wade and Ms. Willis.
So the thing that he raised there, Michael Moore, this former prosecutor, the thing that he raised there is, if there is no wrongdoing and if she really feels like the extramarital affair wasn't a big deal, and obviously the target, her boyfriend, didn't feel it was a good deal. He didn't even seal his divorce records until after everything was already plumbed and investigated. Then why are they fighting everything? We'll see more about this, and we have more Stacy Washington Now on Salem News Channel coming up next. Stay right there.